After a certain point of training, you can't expect to keep making linear gains week after week, because if you did, you'd be the strongest person in the world within a few years. And that's why we have different training methods to apply progressive overload, so that we can keep getting stronger and continue to make progress even when we are not a beginner. In today's video, I want to talk about the step loading method. I'll talk about what it is, its different variations and how to apply them, their pros and cons, and finally my own experience with this method, especially from a calisthenics and weighted calisthenics point of view. So let's first define step loading. Step loading is when you keep the weight or the intensity the same for a period of time, and you incrementally increase the reps or the quality of your technique to apply the progressive overload. And after that period of time, at the start of a new cycle, you increase the weight or the intensity, and then you keep applying the same thing. And you will notice that I am emphasizing on weight or intensity, and that will become clear when I talk about the variations. It's called step loading because if you put the increase of the weight and the amount of time passed in a graph, it looks like a staircase or steps. Step loading has mainly two variations. The first one being the volume step loading, which is generally what people refer to when they're talking about step loading, which is when you keep the weight the same and you increase the reps or the volume over a period of weeks to apply the progressive overload. Even though you're keeping the weight the same, you're not actually keeping the intensity same. You're increasing intensity week after week. And here's where I tell you why I was distinguishing between weight and intensity, because a lot of people like to equate weight with intensity. But I don't think that should be the case, because doing a similar weight for more repetition is more intense. So in volume step loading, you increase both the volume and the intensity, and you keep the weight the same. Let's see how it can work in a real program with an example of weighted pull-up. You can start the training cycle with a weight you can do for 3 sets of 3, let's say 20 kg, and you do that 3 times a week, and you try to increase the reps. Let's say after 1 week, in the second week, you do 4-3-3, and you try to go to basically 3 sets of 4. You can even increase the sets. So instead of doing 3 sets of 3, you can increase it up to 5 sets of 3, 3 sets of 4, 5 sets of 4, and finally go all the way up to 5 sets of 5, or at least 3 sets of 5. After you have done that, you can pause and take a deload, and you can start your next cycle with 25 kg or maybe even 30 kg. If you follow Dominic's guide, you'll know that this is almost the exact program he recommends in his weighted calisthenics advice. So that was volume step loading. Let's talk about technical step loading, which is probably the most conservative way to progressively overload. Technical step loading is when you keep both your weight and the intensity the same throughout the entire cycle, and you apply progressive overload by improving the quality of your reps, the quality of the lifts. This method of training is mostly relevant in exercises and sports where the technique or the form is as important as being able to do that exercise with that weight. Something like Olympic lifting or advanced gymnastics or calisthenics skills. For regular everyday weighted pull-up progress, you probably don't need this unless you're already super strong and making progress by increasing reps, and the weight is super slow and you want to strive for excellence with your technique, then you can go for it. This is an excellence-driven style of training. Even when you're doing it in the volume step loading way, you will get familiar with handling a certain amount of weight before you increase it, which gives you and your body the time to adapt to that weight. That means the chances of injury or accumulating too much fatigue are pretty low. This is a very safe way to train. It prevents ego lifting, it keeps your training honest, and will also help you to build more patience, which may not seem as beneficial in the short term, but will help you to be more consistent and make more progress in the long term. The first thing that comes to my mind is that as you get stronger and stronger, it actually gets really difficult to increase the weights, and going from 3 sets of 3 to 5 sets of 5 or even 3 sets of 5 may not seem as difficult on paper, but when you actually do it, it might take you a few months even, and that can be quite challenging psychologically, because you might think that you'll simply go from 3-3-3, then 4-3-3, 4-4-3, but in reality your progress can get very stagnant, and you might start questioning the efficiency of this style of training. You might stop training in this way and you start a different program midway, and now you're just spinning your wheels. I understand that this is not really a con of the method, it's more like a lack of patience of the training. But I think it's important to remember that most of us are not perfect people. We are not robots operating in a vacuum, and psychological challenges such as lack of patience are not only very common but kind of expected among humans, especially late beginners and intermediates. So I think that someone who starts this sort of program needs to really trust the process and do it for at least a few mesocycles before they start doing something else. Another possible con I can think of is that yes, you are striving for excellence with your technique, but excellence is not really measurable, and you can lose out on some potential progress if you get caught up in perfecting your technique too much. My personal experience with step loading is kind of mixed. I have not tried it with many exercises for too long. I've only tried it with weighted pull-ups and wall-assisted handstand push-ups. With weighted pull-ups, my experience hasn't really been that good. I have had the problem of getting stuck in a particular rep range for like 6 to 8 weeks, and I finally gave up and tried something else. And yes, again, I'm not saying that this is the problem of the program, this is a problem of me, that I need to be more patient and I need to be more mature about my training. But yes, that hasn't been very good. But for handstand push-ups, it actually has been a lot better. I started my wall assisted handstand push-up when I could only do one set of 3. I started my first cycle with 3 to 1, only doing 1 rep in the last set, and after about 15 weeks of training, that's 3 mesocycles, I can do 5 reps for 1 set, or 4-4-4 for 3 sets. I think that's pretty good progress. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. If you want to let me know your thoughts, you can do so by leaving a comment. If you want more similar videos, you can subscribe. Bye.